Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for allowing me to come along this evening. Ko Jacqui Johnston tōku ingoa e mahi ana ahau ki Foundation North. My name is Jacqui and I'm one of the team here at in the community engagement team at Foundation North. Foundation North, for those of you that don't know, is a community trust that was created in 1988 with the sale of the ASB Savings Bank. We have, over the past 30 years, provided nearly $1 billion in grants to community organisations and initiatives. So Foundation North is an endowment fund that is essentially invested for the people of Auckland and Northland for generations to come. Our vision is enhance lives, and we try and take a real intergenerational view. We want to think about what will make a difference to the children of today, as well as to great-grandchildren in the future. Our overall vision, as I said before, is to enhance lives. So we have a 15-year strategy that underpins, or has been underpinned by community research. We provide community funding for tried and tested services, so we have a lot of sports organisations that come to us. And then we also invest in slightly edgier, new and innovative solutions and approaches, especially ones that are designed and led by the community. We have 4 focus areas that sit across our strategy, and the aim is to create positive social change in these 4 areas in particular. So whether when you apply for any sort of community funding, any application that you do to our organisation will be assessed against these 4 focus areas. So I'll just give a bit of a rundown of them, and you might be able to have a think of your organisation and how each of these may relate to your specific organisation. So the first one is increased equity. So we support approaches that achieve the aspirations of Māori and Pacifica communities and address systematic and intergenerational inequalities in South Auckland and Northland. We also prioritise solutions that place children and young people at the centre. The social inclusion focus areas, approaches that reduce discrimination and racism and increase social inclusion. This focus area is aimed at former refugees, new migrants that have been in the country less than 5 years, our rainbow communities, and people living with a disability are priority, especially in this focus area. Regenerative environment, we live in this amazingly beautiful part of the world, but our environment, as we know, is under pressure. So this area supports initiatives that help conserve and restore our natural world for today and for future generations. And we look to see Indigenous approaches and practices as being crucial to this focus area. And finally is community sport, where a number of our sport organisations come, and it's a real broader area which looks to support participation in positive activities that bring communities together, that enhance skills and creativity and build a sense of pride and support and overall well-being. So working out whether you can apply, there are a number of questions. We do have a bit more probably flexibility than the gaming trusts do. So you don't necessarily need to be a charitable trust, but you do need to have a charitable purpose. So you can't profit make off a Foundation North grant. So essentially limited liabilities can apply to Foundation North. You can be an incorporated society, marae can come to us. One of the big things is you have to have been operating for at least 12 months and be able to produce 12 months worth of accounts to be able to apply to us, and that you are providing a service, project or program that sits within the Northland or Auckland area. If you don't meet some of this criteria, as Ben mentioned, we do accept applications from umbrella organisations, so you can get, and we do quite regularly get organisations sitting across organisations that don't meet these criteria to allow them to apply, so that is okay with us as well. In terms of the type of grants we have probably 2 key funding programs that are open all year. So we don't really have due dates as such, we really have time frames. So essentially our quick response is our lower level grant. You can apply to up to $25,000 there. There's no closing dates, but once you've submitted the button and had a complete application turned into us, again, we aim to have a decision to you within 2 months of that application being submitted. The second one is our community grant, so that's anything above $25,000. Again, no closing dates, but we aim to give you a decision within 5 months of receiving a completed application. So what that means, you really need to sort of think ahead that actually the funding's not coming till 5 months away. We don't fund retrospectively, so really it means you've got to plan ahead around what you are looking to do and the funding you require. We have a policy around 1 grant per year. So if you're looking at putting in a grant, we really encourage you to think of the year ahead and what that looks like and the funding you want over that period. So how to begin? I can't say enough, just read the information. So making sure that you read the guidelines and other material. We don't want to waste any group's time. So just making sure that you're not applying to something that is excluded. You know, it doesn't matter how good your application, if it's an exclusion, it's not going to get funded, full stop. And so just making sure you read the information before putting in an application, so you're not wasting your time filling in an application when actually it's not something we fund. You know, we've got limitations around uniforms, we've got limitations around equipment, so making sure you're across that before you put in an application. Our funding hub, if you go onto the Foundation North website, I believe our website is going, fingers crossed. So if you go on there and register, it takes a couple of days to process that through. So go and register in the funding hub, and all your applications and any information is located within that funding hub. So I highly recommend sort of going in and having a look and setting up a registration in the portal. In terms of what makes a great funding application, for us, it's really strength of alignment. We, like all the other funders, are oversubscribed, and so we always have a lot more applications in terms of we may have, you know, $35 to $45 million to give away, but it still is an oversubscribed fund. So we really look to what your strength of the alignment to those 4 focus areas that I mentioned before. Why you were doing and what you were doing, you know, so really be clear in explaining what it is you're looking to do, what will the money fund, and how you'll implement it. So, you know, just really putting the basic details about what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do, how you're going to look, and the impact that's having on the community. So what are the number of people affected? You know, sometimes you might be doing a project around young people, but actually it affects the whole community. So it's really identifying the impact that that project is going to have on the community. And then risk, identify any risks. If you know of risk, you know, don't be afraid to put them forward, because that is one of the things that will be brought up in the assessment. So you're better to front foot it and, you know, mitigate or manage any risks that might need mitigation. You know, giving us that information is really useful. And then looking at your track record and whether you're able to effectively deliver. Again, as Ben mentioned, have you done your previous reporting on any previous grants? So it's just making sure that you've got, I suppose, all your ducks in a row before submitting an application. Things you need to include, you know, in both our grants, we need letters of support just to prove the type of community organisation. So just making sure you've got those documents attached to your application, what your governance look like. Again, if your constitution says you need to be audited, we will be looking for your audited accounts. So making sure that what you're identified in the constitution of your organisation is matching what you're coming to and applying to us. And again, it's that really important picture that you paint a really clear picture of who you are and what you do, and there are word limits to do it. So you really need to make that concise. Any time along the process, if you're struggling, we have an 0800 number, and so I highly encourage you, ring the 0800 number and ask questions. You know, if something doesn't make sense, you better ask questions than waste time working away on it and then not being able to get a correct answer. So ring the 0800 number and ask and make sense of what's going on. You know, it is available there to help you. Essentially, that's me in a nutshell. I'll stop sharing. I can't see the questions in the chat. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, just one question, Jacqui. Long one, but just one.
Yeah, as funders we talk, and so the reality is declare everything, whether it's approved or not. So if in your budget you put, actually, we've applied to this funder for this, we've applied to this funder for this, make sure you list it all down and then just say confirmed or unconfirmed. Again, if I see another funder across the application that I'm across, I'll ring up the other funder and say, hey, can you confirm, are you funding this? Should we be funding this? So we do have conversations around it. So yeah, we don't see an issue. We like other funders. Like Ben said, we don't like to be the sole funder of any individual programs. So we would like to see other funders involved. So we encourage you to sort of keep your basket open and apply to multiple funders around projects, because it just means you're not reliant on a single funder.
If you're a registered business, do you have to use an umbrella organization to apply? By registered, I'm assuming he means that it's registered not as a charitable trust or an incorporated society. It might be registered as a business, perhaps.
Yep, limited liability companies can apply to us. The piece that we'll be looking for is what that community intent is, so what the charitable intent is in terms of it. So again, you can't profiteer off the grant, but if there's community and charitable intent, we have a number of limited liability companies that do get funding from us because of their community intent.
Next question, does location and decile rating have a bearing on funding?
We fund across both Auckland and Northland. Again, it's how good the project is and what you're doing. We know that decile rating often doesn't dictate the community and the need within those communities. So the reality is, again, we're funding to strategy. So if you look at your strategy and it may be in a decile 10 area, but actually it's impacting one of those communities, say for example, Rainbow Community, if you're doing a project aimed at Rainbow Community, it could easily sit in a decile 10 community. So really it depends on our strategy and alignment with strategy rather than where it is, and it must be located within Auckland and Northland.